All right, so I'm showing 2 o'clock on my phone, so I think it's a good time to get started. So welcome everyone to another edition of Equidox Webinar Wednesdays. So this month we are going to be talking about some of the FAQs. So we're going to be answering your top 8 most commonly asked user support questions. I'm actually joined this month by a couple of my colleagues, which I'll introduce in just a second. But before I go any further, I just want to make sure that everyone's aware that if you have any questions, if you are not a client and you're just interested here in learning more about Equidox, please feel free to reach out to us. Our website is www.equidox.co. Okay, so we're going to meet today's team. If you've joined us on these webinars before, you probably know me. My name's Dan Tuleta. I'm a sales engineer here with Equidox, but today I am joined by 2 of my favorite colleagues, Zach Easterling, who is our quality assurance lead, and Anna Johnson, who is our customer support analyst. So they're going to be actually going through the bulk of the webinar today, so I'm getting the month off. But I'm going to hand it over right now to, I believe, is it Anna, you're up first?
I am.
Okay, great. So take it away, Anna.
All right. Well, I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. My name is Suzanah, but I also go by Anna Johnson, and I do enjoy being a customer support analyst here at Equidox. I'm here to talk to you about a few frequently asked application questions. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started with the first one, which is going to be password reset. So this is one of the more frequently asked questions that we have. Sometimes people don't receive the email or they're not able to get past this screen. So what we advise on these is that you make sure that you've entered your email address correctly. Sometimes you could get in a rush and maybe miss a letter. And so obviously you're not going to get a password reset link if you don't have your email address correct. The next thing is you do actually have to check the reCAPTCHA box to tell Equidox you are not a robot. And then you do need to reset your password, or you do need to click the reset password button. But one of the biggest things that we get with this is, you know, people say, I verified that I entered my email address, I've clicked the reCAPTCHA, I've clicked the reset button, but I still don't have it in my inbox. And it's at that point that we usually recommend people to check their junk and spam folders, because if you don't have Equidox added to your address book, that's exactly where your email will send it, is to your junk or spam folders. So just make sure to check those if you don't have your link. The next issue that we're going to talk about is using the help option within Equidox. So if you've worked in Equidox, you see the little blue help button in there. Once you click that, you'll see the screen that the screen that you have here. This is broken into 2, but it is all one. So you definitely want to enter your name. Your first name is absolutely fine. You want to enter the email that is associated with your Equidox account. This is really important because it helps us just associate things better from a client aspect. Priority is not necessary unless you are submitting multiple requests. Then you'll want to set the priority because that lets us know which one you want us to work on first. The subject, just a brief summary of the issue or question is necessary. And then in description, I'm going to go ahead and say that the first and most important thing that we would like to see in the description area is the document URL link. A lot of the issues always have to pertain to a document and usually a specific page within a document. So it's very helpful to have the document URL. You can copy it right out of right from your browser and put it right in there. The next thing that we would want is your page number, if that is applicable, and then a clear description of the issue. And then also, if you are receiving an error message or something is appearing weird, you can go ahead and click that take screenshot button, and that will take a full screenshot and will allow us to see what's going on. We don't usually use the upload files button, so we'll go ahead and go on to the next slide. This is one of the more commonly asked questions is, can I remove zones without having to remove each one individually? And so in order to do that, once you go into a document, you will already be on the page tab, which you'll see on the left side of this screen here. And so what you'll want to do is go over to your sensitivity slider and just slide it all the way down to 0. And when you do that on the next slide, once you push that down to 0, you'll see that everything has been removed. Now, if you happen to have an image that was imported with the document, you will continue to see that image zone. Images are the only thing that the sensitivity 0 will not remove. So that was important there. And next slide. One of the other things that kind of goes along with this is that sometimes people want to remove certain zones, but not all of the zones on the page. So in order to do this, you're going to draw a zone around the zones that you wish to remove. When you do that, you're going to change that zone type to a sensitivity. And I think we're going to, yes. So in here, we want to remove these. So we're going to create a zone around these zones here that we want to remove. And then we're going to make it a sensitivity zone type. And then that automatically removes just those zones. And then you can push that down to 0. And then you just remove that zone. And then you can continue on to remediate the rest of your document. So that's just a quick thing that you can do just to remove some of the zones on the page. And then we're going to talk about the table of contents and creating the table of contents. So I think we also have an example of this in the, there we go. So we've already done the base portion of this, which is we've created this zone for the table of content. So as you can see within this zone here, we are actually missing, when it imported, it just, we missed a divider here. So you can actually manually add that line, that divider line there. And then you can save from there. And then in order to get into the layout, as far as associating the page link with that, you will double click each line option. And then down towards the bottom, you'll see the link to page option. You'll click that checkbox. And then in the page number, you're able to either manually enter, or you can use the arrows to get the correct page that you want to associate. It's usually easier to do the manual option once you get into the double digits. It just alleviates a lot of the clicking. So you can manually do that. One of the great features about this is that we now are able to artifact the dots in here. So we're going to click the Show Artifacts checkbox. And then if it doesn't appear initially, you can go ahead and create those artifacts by using the artifact positioners towards the bottom. And so we're going to go ahead and up that, and we're going to go ahead and enter see if we can get these to look okay. And so we're going to lay that artifact box over the dots. So everything that this artifact box encompasses is not going to show in the preview or the output. So, so what it's designed to do is essentially hide everything that it encompasses. So we're just going to work on getting this a little more perfect. And then we're going to show you the preview of what that looks like. So in the preview, you can now see that the dots have been removed, and you have the link there. It's showing that there is a link to that page. And so at this point, I've covered the top application support requests that we received. And I'm going to hand it over to Zach to talk about the top 4 technical requests that we received.
Well, thanks, Hannah. That was awesome. Let's see, I need to get back to our slideshow here. And as we covered the table of contents, again, artifact positions, the 4 items that I'm going to be covering today are basically going to be working with forms. It's going to be covering OCR. It'll be covering Form X objects from InDesign, and it'll also be covering an issue that we call fixes for no spaces. So let's start off with forms. We've got a picture here of a form that's been imported into Equidox, and we can see that this is a basic form. It's got some fields on it. Again, it looks like the user, the end user of this document should be entering their surname and their first name, and some other information about their, it looks like a school day. So the idea here is to give the screen reader some content about what they're going to be entering. And to do that, we use a thing called tooltips. And those tooltips should contain an action word. Those action words are things that the user should be doing: clicking, entering, selecting, typing. So in this particular example, we've got this surname field. The tooltip that I would probably use in this is enter the applicant's surname. If we've got a checkbox, something down here, for example, the option would say something like, select this option for yes, individual education plan. On this second page here, we've got some checkboxes. And in this case, this checkbox might read, check here to indicate two references written in English have been completed. And a couple of things to remember about forms. We want to avoid the use of drawn table zones. Tables look great on screen, but don't flow as we would like them to in a screen reader. So avoid using tables to create a visual formatting of form fields. Simply use your document ordering. As well, form fields should have unique names. So if, for example, you had multiple city fields, you would want to name those city fields maybe home city and work city, or maybe there's an individualized education plan yes and an individualized education plan no. And again, in this scenario here, we might want to say that this form field would be called references completed, and this form field might be called references in progress. Now, again, most of that information is going to be handled before you import it into Equidox. So those will be form fields created within the perhaps auto form field generator in Adobe, or in let's say the native program that the form was created in. The next question that we get in our support stack is, when and why does Equidox produce an OCR result? OCR stands for optical character recognition, and it basically just means that there's an image of text, but there isn't selectable text underneath. Equidox does a good job of OCRing text. We use an OCR engine called Tesseract that's kind of been tweaked by our machine learning scientist. And what Equidox wants to do is detect text if an image, if a full page image exists on the screen. You can see in this example that a full page image, and this is in this example, we've got an Equidox thumbnail overlay on top of the content page of a PDF. And we can see that this content in the PDF is one full page. And Equidox has recognized that as something that should be OCR'd. Why does it do that? Well, because it knows that it's a full page document. and that there is no other content within that page. As opposed to this one, in this particular example, Equidox won't OCR this, at least not automatically. You can still force it to OCR by using the OCR zone in the page editor, but as an automatic it won't. And it won't because the image of text is smaller than full page, as well as individualized text content within the PDF content pane. So again, Equidox does not do an auto OCR with mixed content, but you can still force it, well, I shouldn't say force, you can still request it to do OCR on any zone that you set. And our next topic is going to be Form X objects. And I'm going to spend just a little bit more prevalent now that the newer versions of InDesign support this feature. InDesign supports the Form X object mainly to streamline repetitive actions that are within the document. So we can think of repetitive actions as logos in a header in the same place in a document, or footers that describe the document content, and even page numbers can be included in these Form X contents. Additionally, Form X will be used to transform documents from one size to another, and even from one type to another. So you may see an Excel spreadsheet that has been pasted into an InDesign document that may be transformed using the Form X object. And we're going to go over a live example on that in just a second. There are also transforms that are performed on images. So the Form X objects, while they used to be kind of siloed into only repetitive objects or repetitive things within your document, Adobe has expanded its features in InDesign to place Form X objects around other things. So I'm going to switch my screen back to Equidox, and we're going to cover, I'm going to close my table of contents first. But we're going to cover a specific example of a Form X object. So in this Form X object example, I have two tables here. You can see that in Equidox, I've zoned on the kind of upper right-hand side, table 1, and I've zoned on the bottom right-hand side, table 2. And when I go to the upper right-hand corner and click my preview page, we can see that this table is laid out fairly well. When I go to the Equidox export, I'm going to say no here, I am faced with an option down at the bottom that says Flatten Form X Objects. The use of this Flatten Form X object should be used when your preview of your tags don't line up with the content. And let me show an example of what I mean. If I were to output this document right now, we would see that the tags inside inside Acrobat don't align with the text that they're assigned to. What this does is provides a very bad experience for the end user. It's not going to read this document it's not going to completely read this document. We'll be getting, for example, noon, community center, oars, outdoor, but we won't be getting any of this additional content around the outside. This is because, and if I click on the left here in the content pane, you can see that all of this information is wrapped up into a Form X object. What Equidox can do is flatten that information out. And we've taken the specific steps that Adobe has suggested to us, or not us specifically, but it's suggested to the accessibility community to move those pieces of content out of the Form X object and direct up into the page level. And as we can see then, if I click on the tabs pane on the left and select one of these two table tags, now all of that content is correctly tagged. It's highlighted appropriately within the table itself, and will be a good user experience. This will read properly. It will work exactly as intended. It's got all of our table rows and our table headers and our table data. So again, if you were to export this document and it doesn't read correctly, or if you export this and perhaps your accessibility checker has indicated that not all of the content is flagged and tagged, my best suggestion would be to use the flattened form X objects, especially if you have the ability to take a look in the content tree and see those form X objects. And again, while this is a table example, it does affect images and repetitive content. Lastly, the last thing that I'd like to discuss is fixing no space documents. No space documents generally occur when content is width justified. So in this example here, as I zoom in, we can see that this document is width justified across the screen. It's not left justified, it's not right justified or centered. It's currently taking up the entire distance between the left and the right. We see this a lot in educational documents, in literature, and in reports such as this. What happens with this document when it's exported is that the content doesn't actually contain spaces. These words on the screen are positioned with coordinates, and those coordinates say that the word at should be, at 0, 0, and the word the should be at 10, 10, but it doesn't actually contain all of the textual information to help us produce spaces. And what the user experience is on that is that all of these words are run together. Not a very good user experience, and it's very hard to understand. However, Equidox has the ability to solve that. What we can do to solve that is we have a fix for no space checkbox. It's on the output screen. And let me go back to my document here. If I were ready to output this, I would select the output tab, go to PDF, and use this fix for no space documents. Equidox is then going to determine where spaces need to be within those words, and it's going to actually insert spaces with all of that information into the alt text of the tag. It doesn't change any of the visual content on the page, but it does allow for a good user experience because that tag will contain proper reading alt text. So with that information, that's the 4 top technical support requests that we usually handle here on the support desk. And I will turn it back over to Dan to kind of roll us out here.
Before you get going, we do have one question in the Q&A since we do have a few minutes.
Oh, excellent.
Someone is asking, what would that look like in the preview before you output with the no space fix?
That's an excellent question. Let's go back into Equidox and we can actually review that. I hope everyone can still see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. I'm going to shrink this page here. And we'll just handle one zone. Because Equidox has the ability to read the content from, read the individualized content, what you're going to get is a straight text preview within Equidox itself. What it looks like in Acrobat is this. you'll see the text selected. And even though it appears to be all run together in the tag, really what your screen reader is going to provide to the user, ooh, excuse me, I'm looking for the properties here, is the proper alt text here. And I hope that answers that question.
Great, thanks. That seems to be the only question at the moment.
Perfect.
Or use the help button, as Suzanna explained.
Yeah. So there is, just so everyone's aware, there is a demo embedded in the slide deck. So everyone that's registered will be getting a recording of this, not only the webinar itself, but the slide deck. And this slide contains a link to a short Equidox demonstration. It's about 10 minutes long. So if you or anyone else in your organization might be interested to see the general workflow of how the Equidox software works, please feel free to view this video. It will be there for you in the slide deck. So Zach, if you can just jump to the next slide and we'll wrap things up. For more information about how Equidox Software Company can help you with PDF accessibility, email us at equidoxsales@equidox.co or give us a call at 216-529-3030. Or visit our website at www.equidox.co.